Back for another one, eh? Hello, and welcome back to a guide to RotMG Dungeons, a series in which I'll try and cover every dungeon in Realm of the Mad God. In today's episode, I'd like to take a look at an even bigger challenge than the bone-chilling pirate cave. That's right, a horrifying forest in which anything can happen. Not that kind of forest, damn you! I am of course talking about the Forest Maze, the second dungeon the player can encounter in their endeavor of playing this godforsaken game. What's so special about it? We'll get into that later, but first let me give you my recommendations on what you should bring with you so you stand a chance against the terrors within. Unlike the Pirate Cave, for this bad boy you're gonna need nothing. Absolutely nothing. Trust me, you do not need anything. In terms of minion health and damage, this dungeon isn't too far away from Pirate Cave. However, there are certain features that make it more of a challenge and a task you shouldn't take too lightly. What I mean by that is going to be explained later, but first I'd like to inform you where the entrance can be found. Forest Maze has the largest amount of different enemies that drop the dungeon's portal. To find it, you'll have to venture into the grassy inland where it can be found by killing a forest nymph, the goblin mage, the elf wizard with the hairline even magic can't save, the hobbit mage, smurf hobbit mage, sandsman king, dwarf king, the drake baby, you baby killer, and the enraged bunny that just wanted to follow you. You have of course got the option of buying a forest maze key, but please don't. After mercilessly killing one of the poor inhabitants of the realm, you may enter the place known as the Forest Maze. This name quickly starts making sense as you see multiple directions to go, yet no clear sign of which is the right one. Luckily you've got me to explain you the layout of the dungeon. The rooms themselves are actually pretty similar, being different in only shape and an occasional tree or two placed in the middle. What this dungeon does differently, however, is that the rooms are separated by thick treetops that limit visibility and give enemies an ambush advantage. The only rooms that don't have enemies in them are the long and narrow hallway-like rooms which often lead to other rooms at the end. While following the quest marker is generally a good idea, it can be misleading as the dungeon has a lot of twists and turns. Looking at the minimap in the top right can often let you see where you can go, as well as reveal enemies hiding under the leaves. Speaking of enemies, I think it's about time I introduce you to your new friends if you're interested in this moth-infested forest. First of all, you've got the Forest Goblin. Don't ask me why he decided to wear that hat, everyone told him it doesn't fit him. When the player gets close enough to him, he'll start firing white lines that deal 20 damage while occasionally charging towards you and firing at a faster frequency. They shouldn't pose too much of a threat as they only possess 90 HP. Just keep your distance and you should be fine. His drops include tier 3 and tier 4 weapons and armor, tier 2 abilities, tier 1 rings, magic potions, and speed sprouts. If you're wondering what a speed sprout is, it's a consumable that gives you the speedy effect for 5 seconds. Then there's the Forest Goblin Mage, a minion with less health and damage than his goblin compatriot, however where they excel is in their range and status effects. They shoot 2 magic shots that deal 8 damage and silence the player for 2 seconds while keeping their distance. The silence status effect means you cannot use your ability for its duration. They drop the exact same loot as the normal goblins. The third minion is the Armored Squirrel, a tough little critter that tries to get close to the player and shoots double shots that deal 20 damage. This minion is quite tough and has a fair amount of defense. Just look at that cute little helmet. When meeting them, it's important to keep moving as they can deal a good amount of damage to standing still targets. They have similar drops to the previous 2 minions, with the difference being them dropping health potions instead of magic ones, them dropping only tier 3 weapons and no abilities. Remember when I said this dungeon is dangerous for different reasons other than stats? Yeah, the 4th minion is that reason. It's called a mini megamoth and it's nothing too special in terms of health or damage. However, what'll really annoy you is the status effect that it causes. It shoots a single slow projectile dealing 15 damage and causing confusion. What's confusion, you ask? It's a status effect that switches out your controls so you either run into the wall and become a sitting duck, or run into other enemies. You can guess how that story ends. To go more in depth, it switches up your up control to right, and your right control to up. It switches out your down control to left, and your left control to down, and it switches your camera rotation controls. This makes your muscle memory of how to move completely useless except for, as some of you keen-eyed might have noticed, when you hold up and right or left and down. Holding those two combinations will still have you move in the same direction, so remember this tip. Please, it can easily save your life, as once the confusion expires, you'll still be moving in the same direction and not switching out and running into the minions again. Now back to the mini Megamoth. I also completely forgot to mention the fact that this thing heals for some reason. It's really not that bad, as its healing can very easily be outdamaged, but it's yet another factor that makes it more annoying than it really needs to be. The biggest insult to injury is that this little bastard doesn't even drop anything other than a magic potion. The only saving grace is that the minion on its own isn't really that dangerous, however when paired with others it can be extremely annoying. And what better pairing than the mini Megamoth and the ultimate squirrel? By far the toughest minion in Forest Maze, the ultimate squirrel has a whopping 400 health, combined with acorn bullet shotguns that deal 35 damage per hit and apply the stun status effect for 1.4 seconds. This status effect causes you to be unable to shoot for its duration. While the minion isn't that dangerous when far away, it can quickly rack up damage the closer you are, especially considering that accidental hug you're about to give it with that lovely confusion status effect. When finally killing this giant, you'll be disappointed to find out that it only drops the same drops as the two goblins I mentioned previously. As you finally break through the hordes of minions, you rush through the trees until you see an opening. In front of you is a lovely field of grass and oh god, what's that in the middle of it? This is it. The moment you've been training for. The moment you've been dreaming of. The Mama Megamoth. She is surrounded by mini Megamoths, yes, the confuse-inflicting moths. As she spots you, she will immediately charge towards you, leaving behind a trail of moth dust that does 25 damage and inflicts the stun status effect for 3 seconds. During this first phase, she'll chase you around without really shooting other than the trail. Most of the damage will be dealt by the minions around her, which you should get rid of first. In her second phase, she'll return to the center of the room and become invulnerable, after which she'll spawn 2 groups of mini Megamoths. One of the groups will chase the player, while the other focuses on healing Big Mama. She'll remain untouchable until all the moths are slain. After your struggles of minion clearing finally prove effective, she'll flash red and shoot an undodgeable circle that stuns for 3 seconds. She'll then start chasing the player while firing 4 shots that deal 15 damage and inflict confuse. It's important to not get hit by the confuse, as it can quickly result in you getting trapped and hitting shot after shot in an infinite confuse cycle. Keep moving throughout the boss fight, as standing still at any point can prove to be fatal to low defense targets. Finally, the buzzing stops. Mama Megamoth is no more. All that's left of her is the loot on the ground in front of you. Let me inform you of what you can expect to receive as a reward for your bravery. She drops a guaranteed mark of Mama Megamoth, alongside tier 3 to 5 weapons, tier 3 to 6 armor, tier 1 to 2 abilities, tier 2 to 3 rings, speed sprouts, and common pet eggs. She also drops 2 untiered items that drop in a cyan bag. The first is the Bramble Bow, a bow that shoots 3 shots with more DPS than a tier 7 bow at low defense. Think of it as a tier 0.75 bow with a different shot pattern. The second piece of loot is a Cocoon Quiver. It shoots 2 shots that do on average 200 damage and inflict paralyze for 2 seconds. Because of the 2 shots, this quiver lets you inflict your paralyze more consistently, as it's easier to hit. And who could forget about the adorable sapling pet skin? And with that, I think I've covered all there is to cover. Thank you for watching and good luck with your forest maze clearing. Hopefully this tutorial has opened your eyes and shown you the true way of playing RotMG. Any support is appreciated, but absolutely not necessary. Also, come say hi on my Twitch stream. Name of the channel will be in the description. You have a nice day.